This video is going to look at using Read and Write for Google Chrome. Read and Write for Google Chrome works with Google Docs and Google Slides. It also works with web pages and readable PDFs. So let's have a look at it in Google Docs. The toolbar is going to look similar whether you're in Docs or Slides. So here I am, I've opened up a Google Doc, and it's important to note that the first time a child uses Read and Write for Google, you are going to need to authorize it. So I'm just going to pop back in here and just go through a couple little things. First of all, it's really important that the student is signed into the Chrome browser with their G-Sacred Google account. If they are signed into the Chrome browser with a personal account, they will not have all the paid features of Read and Write for Google. Our district has paid for Read and Write for Google, so that's why we must be signed into Chrome with our G-Sacred one. So for example, I'm just going to go up here to Chrome. It says my name here in the corner. I'm going to click on it, and it says that I'm signed in with my G-Sacred account. If this said kholt@gmail, it would not work. So it needs to be kholt@gsacred. I also must be signed into my Drive with my G-Sacred account. So both places have to be the same. When I'm on a Chromebook, it's important to note as well that from the first sign-in screen here, you sign in with your G-Sacred account. If this here is signed in with Gmail, it will not work. You must be signed in here with G-Sacred and then also in the Google Drive with G-Sacred. So those are important things to check before kiddos get started. And likewise, I was saying, the first time you use Read and Write for Google, it's great to just prompt it and get it started with a Google Doc. It seems to be, it sorts out a lot of the difficulties that we might have in getting it going the first time. Once it's up and running, you're good to use it with whatever application. So here I am on my Google Doc. I see this nice little purple puzzle piece. I'm going to click on it and it will reveal my toolbar. Before we get started, I'm just going to look at here the options. So I'm going to click on this little down arrow and I'm going to click on options. So in options, this is where I can change the voice, the speed, and again for children who have processing difficulties, it's a good idea to slow this down quite a bit. I can also adapt my prediction, and I can change that to anywhere between 3 and 10 options for prediction, and again change my text size. So if children have low vision, you may want to increase that. Language, if I am in a French immersion settings, I would want to change this to French. And then also here, features. So our toolbar has I think it's over 20 options. So if you decided that that's just too much for certain students, or they decided it was too much and there was only 3 or 4 tools they used regularly, just have them come and turn on or off some of these options. And you may have to refresh your page once you've done that. Okay, so I'm just going to click on OK. So now here we are with Read and Write for Google. One of the main things that we often do with Read and Write for Google is to play back. So I'm just going to simply click and I would play back, and you'll notice the dual highlighting. So I'm just going to pause that. The dual highlighting is a great way, and research shows that this does help students focus in on areas of the text, and it also helps with comprehension. So I'm just going to stop that for a minute. Other features here, when I click on a word to select it, I have the dictionary, and I can just simply click on the word in the dictionary to have it read aloud or hit by the play. And I also have a picture dictionary, which is really beneficial as well for our English language learners. So the picture dictionary, great option. Okay, so we've looked at those playback buttons here. Now I'm going to have a quick little look at the writing tools. So I'm just going to come down here. Now, the writing tools, first thing we have that supports writing would be word prediction. And word prediction, so right now I've got a box here with the 10 most common words that would start any sentence in the English language. So I can simply hover on it and it will say aloud the word. And if I want to insert it, I just click on it. Okay, so I can continue to using this. Now, what I often recommend for students, often you do need to have the first sound ready to be able to come up with, with the word that will come up next. But often they'll go, well, I don't know, I don't have any idea how to spell this particular word, or I'm not sure what the word in my list means. So there's another option. I like to have the word prediction as well as the picture dictionary open. So the picture dictionary is a great option, especially again for English language learners. So the first time we could say, I'm going to say walked, if I want to have walked. I can see here that I have a picture. So we know that walked or wanted, words that might sound similar but are very different, so might sound similar to somebody who is an English language learner. We can see the visual symbols as over there. So I'm just going to close the picture dictionary. And I also recommend to students too that, if you're using the word prediction but you have no idea how to spell a word or what even the first two sounds are, is just to come up and use the talk and type or voice typing. So I'm just going to click on that. The first time you use it, you will be prompted to say, to allow access to the microphone. But you can see here that this is just picking that was picking up my speech as I'm typing. So some students will benefit from typing like that, and others will want to simply have, just input one or two words that they don't know how to speak. I'm just going to stop that. So we've had a really quick overview of some of these tools up here. The other tools that I'll point out that are useful along here, I'm just going to click on this. There's a speech maker, an audio tool. So this can be great if you just need an audio file to accompany maybe an exam or something like that. I can simply select the text that I want to convert, and I can click on that. You'll see we've got a little status bar there. What that's doing is converting that to an MP3. So I could just say test and save. And what that's done is downloaded that as an MP3 file. That could be played on any computer or any device. Okay. A couple of the other tools that we'll just quickly, I'll just tell you, you can play along with these with your own, a screen masking tool, and then these highlighting tools. So I'm just going to come back here to the highlighting tools. And so we're going to look at the vocabulary builder, which is actually this tool here. But in order to use it, I'll simply highlight individual words. And, so maybe I will look at that one, software. Maybe I'll do reading, and maybe I'll do speech. Okay. And then I will go and I will click on the vocabulary builder tool. So I'll click on that. And I've got a little pop-up over here saying a new document containing your vocab list is being created. And in a second, that document will pop open with my highlighted words. So here we are. Here is my new word vocabulary list. So, if this was a science class, I could simply say science list to rename it. And then what I often recommend here as well, sometimes we get far too much information and a lot of it isn't relevant to the students. So we do encourage them to customize it. So delete things that isn't relevant to them. Okay, and then over here in the notes sentence or in the notes column, if these are English language learners, it's often a good idea to have them write that sentence in their native language so that they can relate the meaning in English to the meaning in their native language. If there aren't English language learners, you might just have them write or type or voice type a sentence to use the word. And likewise too, sometimes these pictures here don't make a ton of sense. So I'm just going to delete these ones. And sometimes you won't get a picture. So what I'm going to do is just select this word reading, and I'm going to go to the Google Docs Tools menu and hit Explore. So I'm just going to say reading here, and we'll do images. And here, these are all copyright-free images, so I can just simply drag and drop it into my table from the Explore menu. Okay, so I'm just going to come back to that original document. We've looked at a couple of these highlighting tools and this vocab builder. And I think we'll pause there, and then now we're going to go and look at using Read and Write for Google on a web page. Okay, so here we are on a web page, and we've used Read and Write for Google once on a Google Doc, so we know that it should be working just fine on any web page. So I go up and I look in just beside my Omni box there, and I look for the purple puzzle piece. So I'm going to click on that. And I've got a toolbar, looks very similar to the one we just had in the Google document. So what I'm going to do is just show you a couple of key differences. On a web page, if I want it to start reading and I want to use the play button, I have to select it and hit play. But what I often recommend on web pages and PDFs is use this hover speech or click to speech. So I click that, and then I can simply click where I want it to start reading. And you'll notice the rest of these are grayed out, so I just have to pause it. Even once I'm paused, it's still grayed out, so I just click stop, and then I have access to, click this again, and I have access to all the tools. So again, the tools are pretty much the same as what we saw before on the Google document. We can select words and use our dictionary or picture dictionary. We do also have the word prediction if we need that on the web page. One of the tools I'll show you though that is useful is the collecting highlights. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to pretend, let's imagine that I'm a student doing some research. So I'm going to okay, I'm just going to highlight a few key points here and go down here, and we'll just say this one. Okay, so I've highlighted a bit of information. I do have that vocabulary tool if I was doing individual words, but I'm going to go right beside it and collect highlights. Again, I can choose how I want to sort them. I'm just going to keep that at color, and it's going to be opening up a new document for me with my highlights. And down below, it also has the link to the website where I just retrieved this information. So a great way to help students keep themselves organized. And again, we could change this to a different title, and this document's automatically saved in the student's Google Drive. So the other feature I really like about the web pages, once I'm back here, and I'm just going to clear these highlights. I can clear that and just hit this paintbrush, is this simplify tool. So again, I can hit the simplify, and it opens up the web page without any of the images or other distracting content. So we can see the first page had pictures, the sidebar. The simplify tool does just that. It gets rid of the distracting content. And then once I move this bar over here, you can see I have other options for different contrasts, but I also have this ability to subtract content as well. And it just uses an algorithm to take away text, but for some of our students, perhaps that will help them. So that's using a web page. So the next part is going to look at using the PDFs. And finally, this last part, we're going to look at Read and Write for Google, but using PDFs. So the PDFs you can open up from your drive in Read and Write for Google, but I'm going to show how the process is for students when they open it up inside a Google Classroom as a student. So here I am as a student in this classroom. So the assignment said read chapter 1. So I'm just going to click on that to open it. Here's the PDF that's been attached. And just as a little word of caution, not all PDFs are created equally. So the PDFs that we take a piece of paper and we scan it at the photocopier and email it to ourselves are not by default readable. So they will need to be converted. into a readable PDF. The digital textbooks that we have for students who have IPPs are definitely readable. So here's one of those. So I'm just going to click on that. And you'll notice here, well, I don't see the purple puzzle piece up here. This isn't going to work for it. So what I have to do is I have to go over here and I have to click on More Actions. And I have to say Open in a new window. Okay, so now one of my options here is Open With. So I have to say Open With, and I've got to say Read and Write for Google Chrome, or it might say, depending on your settings, the PDF viewer, the Text Help PDF viewer. So I'm just going to click on this, and now it's going to prompt me. This is new this year, that I have to install this PDF viewer and I have to re-enable it. But now the document's opening. When this is happening, just double check that pop-ups are allowed, or that you allow pop-ups. You might see a message right around here that it blocked a pop-up, so you will need to allow it and retry that. So now I can go through the document. Here's my toolbar. Again, looks pretty similar to all the other ones that we have. So I'm just going to come to a page with some text. The first button is Click to Speak. Again, much easier than selecting text. So I just click on that and I click where I want it to start to read. Okay, so I'm just going to stop it. Again, while it is like that, all these other buttons are grayed out. So I just have to click that again, just like it was on the web page. And then I could select a word and have it, have the definition come up. I can also highlight words. So I click on the highlighter, just like we did before and with the other ones. And I also have that vocabulary builder tool, which is awesome. And I won't demonstrate that because we did that with the document. But one of the other tools I will demonstrate is this text tool, the typewriter. So I click on that, and that'll let me actually annotate right on the PDF. So here I do have a word prediction. I could start to use word prediction here. I might say this is really important. Oops, important. There we go. And I could put that on. I also here have voice typing. So if I needed to do a voice type, and I could say, in here I've got prompted to be able to allow the mic, so I'll say allow. And I can just start to talk as well. Okay, and I will just press, okay, so I have my little annotation on here. Now those annotations, you will only see them when you open it up again in the PDF viewer with Read and Write for Google. But again, the student could work on a document like that, close it, share it with their teacher, or submit it through Classroom, and the teacher would open it up with Read and Write for Google to be able to see those annotations. So that was a really quick view of Read and Write for Google Chrome.